So let me just start today's presentation. Now, once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over the college aid presentation for sophomores and juniors about to head off basically, obviously, the next level of junior and senior year. Just got you guys ready kind of for the financial aid and admissions process. Now, that being said, let's go over today's presentation outline and what we'll be talking about here today. Now, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff as far as the college landscape for both sophomores and juniors and what you should be doing right now. We're obviously going to get into the gist of financial aid, how it works, all the new changes coming in from the U.S. Department of Education and everything else happening for next year's senior class, as well as how admissions affects the financial aid process. I'll also be talking about deferments and gap years, which obviously became fairly popular over the last year or two of students taking a year off before they go head off to college. I will also be discussing the SAT, ACT optional situation, what's happening with that, how it's affecting admissions as well as financial aid, as well as how to build a college list between the safety schools, the target schools, and the reach schools, where to go around, about finding ways to kind of build your list, as well as how it affects your financial aid situation as well. I also want to talk about the different financial aid forms out there, the FAFSA, the CSS Profile, and some other forms you guys will be looking to fill out later on, obviously in senior year. And as well as that, I'm going to talk about some scams, some frauds, things to watch out for, as well as social media landmines, things you need to watch out for in the world of admissions as you're going through this entire process, as well as financial aid. And all that being said, we did start the YouTube channel. Some of you already know that we did start a YouTube channel about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. And we've thrown a lot of different videos out there for you guys as far as the admissions process, the financial aid process, how the financial aid forms work, new changes coming in, everything else under the sun. We talk about student loan forgiveness. We talk about everything. So if you're looking for additional assistance with the college process, if you just go to YouTube, just type my name, Ed Zamora. There's a lot of videos out there that we basically put on there. This video will be on there as well to help you guys throughout the college process, basically kind of getting yourself ready and doing all the things you guys need to do. Now, when it comes to the YouTube channel, we actually are using it to fund a scholarship fund. So the more videos you guys jump on and watch, specifically with the commercials actually what funds a scholarship, by the way, or for you guys to just jump on there, just let the videos run. Some parents just say that they watch 1 or 2 videos and then just let the rest of the videos run. They just hit the play all button. And that actually does help us out as far as the scholarship fund is concerned. But also, of course, we do have a lot of good content on there for you guys. And to find us on the YouTube channel, just go to YouTube, just type in Ed Zamora and our channel will pop up. And that being said, let's jump right into, let's talk about basically enjoying the process of going through the entire admissions and financial aid process for the sophomores and juniors, by the way. Just going to give you an example. There's over 4,000 colleges out there. So if you haven't found your specific school you're most interested in or where you think you want to go yet, don't worry, you still got plenty of time, basically. In addition, a lot of students transfer. A lot of students change majors. Typically, somewhere between 50%, if not more students, either transfer or change a major at least once. So it's very likely your students are going to be a revolving door, let's call it, between the majors and possibly even the colleges are interested in, because a lot of changes happen throughout the 4-year time frame of college typically. As well as good, bad, or indifferent, unfortunately, college has become very competitive, the admission side. So if you don't get accepted directly to your dream school, this does not mean this is the end of your life. You still have the opportunity to go to great colleges. Now, every college is what you make of it, which basically means as you go through this process, if you don't get into your dream college, doesn't mean that it's the end of the line for your career and everything else. You still have the opportunity to be very successful in life of going to, let's call it your secondary choice, or maybe your third choice in the world of college. As well as it's not where you start. In some cases, it's where you finish. So as I talked about before, many students transfer. So transferring might be something you guys might want to consider. Maybe you don't get in your top tier school that you want to get into, but maybe you can do it in second tier or third tier school. You kind of work your way around that. You get your GPA up, and then you look to transfer later on, maybe into your dream school, or maybe you stay where you are because you like it better. A lot of these things happen, obviously. Now, for those wondering, one of the biggest, hurdles a lot of parents, a lot of students deal with right now is the uncertainty, not knowing what to do, where to start, so on and so forth. So I'm going to kind of get you guys in the mix here of both the admission side and financial aid side. Now, if you think about it from one step at a time as you're going through this, you'll be fine. If you think about an entirety of it, you're going to overwhelm yourself. So you don't want to do that, obviously. And believe it or not, you have a lot more control over the process than you think. And that being said, let me talk about this guy right here, Steve Jobs. Now, in high school, Steve Jobs didn't do very well at all. Obviously, he had a GPA of 2.65, so didn't do very well at all academically. But he ended up doing pretty well for himself later on in life. And the reason I'm indicating this here, and the reason I'm showing Steve Jobs here in high school is because if your student hasn't figured it out yet, or they don't know exactly what they want to do, or academically they're not the level you want them to be kind of thing, it doesn't mean it's the end of the road for them. There are different routes they can take. There are different colleges they can look at if they're not academically sound enough where you think they should be at this point in time. Obviously, you have the the CUNY schools, you have the community colleges out there where your student can start off for a year or two, kind of build up their academic prowess, and then go to the four-year college if you think their student's not ready to go just yet. So community college, the CUNY schools are definitely a route I would be considering if my student's not academically where they need to be. Because typically when your student finds the right college and then they find the right major and the right path, so on and so forth, academically speaking, they tend to thrive, to be honest with you. And I've been doing this now 25 years. So I've seen every kind of student out there, from students who have less than a 1.0 all the way to the valedictorian students at the 4.0 out of 4.0 scale type scenario. So if they haven't figured it out just yet, don't worry. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road. They still have plenty of time between college visits, tours, working with your college advising office, obviously at your high school and so on and so forth. You guys have plenty of time to figure this out. And in that regard as well, let me discuss one other thing that happens a lot. Sometimes you don't get in your dream school. It happens a lot, unfortunately, because of the fact that colleges are extremely competitive nowadays. It's just gotten completely out of control, the competitiveness of college at this point in time, especially the Ivy League schools, or let's call it tier below, or really any school that has a 10% acceptance rate or less, become very competitive. And the reason I show you guys this chart here is to explain to you, it's not always a college you go to that kind of, lays out the path of success for the student. Now here I have on the screen the top 13 schools that produce the most Fortune 500 CEOs. And if you look at the top, obviously you have Stanford and Harvard and Columbia and so on and so forth. But an interesting fact is, if you go to the bottom down there, for 11th ranking, you have Rutgers University, a state school in New Jersey. In most cases, a safety or target school for most students, as well as Indiana University, also a safety and target schools for a lot of our students here in the Northeast. Now, the reason I say this is because, as you see here, obviously going to Rutgers in Indiana, University of Indiana, it's going to be a lot easier to get into those schools because of obviously the acceptance rate here, percentage-wise, than it would be to get into Harvard or Stanford. However, they have a lot of Fortune 500 CEOs, a lot of students, a lot of people that graduated, obviously, and did very well for themselves. So it doesn't matter where your student goes in some cases. It matters what they do while they're there. And that being said, let's start talking about how, as families, do we even start putting the school list together or figuring out what schools make the most sense for us. Very simple. Right off the bat, first thing you guys should do is check in, obviously, with your college advising office at your high school. Make sure you guys have a meeting. Almost all the time you guys set up meetings to kind of figure out academically what kind of schools my student will or will not be kind of able to get into. What kind of list should we build? What would be our safety schools? Basically our easy ins. Which ones are our hard schools, our reach schools? Now, before you do that visit with the college advising office at your high school, or after you do it, another place you all should be going is right here to collegeboard.org. On collegeboard.org, every family should be utilizing this website or any other website you guys have out there you think about, such as CapX or Niche. These websites here will help you guys build your college list. Now, College Board has been around forever, basically. It's been around for decades and decades. It's got a lot of great information on here. So as parents, and the one thing I don't understand is most parents don't utilize this website enough. As parents, what you guys can do is, if you're thinking about a college for your student, or the college advisor at your high school brings to the school, or your student brings to the school, what you guys can do with College Board is at the top right-hand corner of this website, took a screenshot of the website, you can plug in any school's name, and their profile pops up. On that profile is going to be a wealth of information. Right off the bat, here's a breakdown of one of the colleges here a lot of your students like to go off to. It's Boston University and up north, basically. Now, for this university, it shows me a breakdown of the college cost. It also at the top shows me, obviously, the financial components. Do they offer scholarship money? Do they not offer scholarship money? How generous are they with grant money? So right at the bat, you can start figuring out the school list we're building. How expensive is it? Also, how affordable is it if they provide us financial assistance? Also on here as well, as you can see on the left, it shows you what kind of majors the school offers as far as campus life. The applying also shows you, if you click on the applying link on the left, what their typical SAT, ACTs are, what kind of student they have coming in GPA-wise. So the College Board is a wealth of knowledge to help build you guys the understanding of, is this school somewhere we can get into, as well as, is this school something that's affordable to us? So as you're building your list, you're not just doing this kind of blindly, in the dark, kind of figuring things out. You can start putting together actual information to figuring out, are we good to get in? and can we afford it? So Collegeboard is a great place to start this. Now, keeping on the same thing of Collegeboard with the admissions side, let's start talking about the SAT, ACT optional situation. Now, obviously, when the pandemic started, basically 2 years ago now, most schools, if not almost every school, except for like a handful of them, went SAT, ACT optional. And what's interesting now is a lot of schools are staying SAT, ACT optional. Some have actually come out and said for the next 2 or 3 years consistently going forward, we will accept SAT, ACT optional students, which means you guys do not need to apply, or you guys don't need to send SAT or ACT scores in to be accepted or considered at that college. Now, the interesting thing is, if you're a sophomore student or you have a junior student and they don't test well, and you're wondering, you know what, Ed, should we take a shot at the SAT or not? I always say take a shot at the SAT or ACT. At least see what your baseline score is. And then depending on your school list, then figure out if it makes sense to send the scores in or not. Now, to figure out if your schools that you're considering right now are SAT, ACT optional, very simple, go to this website right here. At the bottom is the website link, fairtest.org. Here on this website, as you can see here, there's almost 1,500 colleges that are SAT, ACT optional. That number has actually grown since I last did this presentation, so it's actually even higher than that. But the interesting thing is that a lot of high-level schools are staying SAT, ACT optional, which is obviously a benefit to students that don't score well. Now, one unfortunate situation is if you are going SAT, ACT optional, it has made it a lot more competitive from an admissions point of view. Now, if you take the test and you're not sure, should we send the scores in or not send the scores in? Very simple. Check with the admissions office. The admissions office is very candid, by the way, in the world of college admissions. You can ask any school's admissions office, this is my SAT score, what do you think? And the best case scenario, obviously, if you can do it face-to-face with an admissions officer, they're a lot more candid. Such as if you have, let's say, a 1,200 SAT score, and they basically say to you, that's a good score, but our typical incoming freshman last year average score was 1350. That means don't send the test scores in. If it's above what they say their average is, then I would send the test scores in. That's kind of a quick way of looking at it. Obviously, also check with your college advising office. They'll be able to help you out figuring out if it makes sense to go SAT optional or to send it in. And with that being said, let's talk about another thing that became very popular over the last 2 years, and that's your students taking a gap year. Now, it became so popular, we actually made a video. We have actually a video on YouTube specifically about the gap year, how it works, how to basically set it up and everything else, and what things to look for and resources. So if you want more insight about taking a gap year off, obviously you can go on the YouTube channel. We have a video just for that. But to explain to everyone here, a gap year is basically when your student takes a year or two off after high school before starting post-secondary education, i.e. college for most of you guys out there. Now, many of the students go out there and they learn a trade or they travel or do volunteer work, this kind of stuff, basically. So kind of, in some cases, they even go to different colleges in different areas and just take a class or two to kind of figure out what they want to do. Now, when it comes to the gap year, I always tell students, even if 100% know you're going to take a year off after high school, you still want to apply to the colleges. You still want to get accepted because many of the colleges will actually allow you to defer basically one academic year. So you can have that spot waiting for you after your 1 year of gap year. Because some students, good, bad, or indifferent, they think gap year is one thing, then they figure out it's not what they really wanted. Okay, so you lost a fall semester, but you still have acceptance. You can start in the spring rather than not applying and you don't have any acceptances. You can't go anywhere for one academic year. So I tell students all the time, just apply, get a school in place just in case we have to back out of the gap year and go back to college kind of thing. Plus, it also allows you to fill out the financial aid forms and figure out if my student does take a year off, but we got in somewhere, what kind of financial package can we expect for years going forward? Because we already know if the colleges we're looking at are generous or not. So it helps out in many ways. Now, two great places to go. I had down below two different links here. Two great websites. You can read the articles right down there. The Teen Life and GoAbroad.com articles are great articles to kind of get you insightful about what a gap year is going to be like, what you should be looking to do, how to even start one if you're looking to do one. And if you want a lot of good information about it, other than our YouTube video, obviously, on it, down below, Gap Year Association, that organization, that website provides a wealth of information about taking a gap year as well. That being said, let's talk about building your college list. So obviously you're using the help of the college advising office and Naviance and Power School, as well as Collegeboard, and in some cases also Niche, as well as CapEx. So there's a lot of stuff out there that can help you start putting together a list. Now we have to figure out how a list breaks down. Now, every college list should have three different parts to it. You have your safety schools, which are basically the definite ins you're going to get in. You can, double check with your college advisor at the high school. They'll let you know if it's a safety school or not. Second level of college list is going to be the target schools, or basically what I call the 50-50 schools, where you essentially have a 50% chance of getting in. So you're not guaranteed of getting in, but you have a very good likelihood of getting in, let's call it. And the third level is typically the reach colleges, the difficult schools, the dream colleges sometimes called, the ones that are more difficult to get into. Now, when it comes to building a college list, that's the admissions way of looking at it. The financial aid way of looking at building a college list is that the safety schools are typically the most sought after, the most important schools for you because of this reason. Since your student's basically a guaranteed in, the first thing you want to do for your safety schools is contact the admissions office and ask them, if we do apply here, do you guys offer scholarship assistance? Because obviously, if you're looking at a safety school, we know our student's a high achieving student for that college, whether it's community service-based, academic-based, testing, etc. The reason you want to look at this and figure out, are we going to be able to get merit aid, is because you want to utilize that merit aid money, because it's probably going to be very high in most safety school considerations. They typically give it a lot of scholarship money because it's a safety school. We want to use that safety school as leverage. That scholarship to get more money out of the target schools, in some cases, even the reach colleges. So you want to think of the safety schools not just as a fallback situation. You want to think about it as leverage to utilize for financial consideration for negotiations later on with your target and your target and reach colleges, by the way. So safety schools, big consideration. Obviously, you want to have the right schools in place that have your major and everything else, but you also want to make sure they offer you scholarship consideration. And now, putting the list together, I always get a lot of questions from parents asking, well, Ed, how should we apply? Does it matter how we apply? Or, we want to go early decision. We want to be locked in, let's call it, and make ourselves more viable of an option for the school to select us and increase our acceptance percentage. But we're not sure about the financial aid. Can they basically say they got us and we're not going to get any aid? That typically doesn't happen. That's one of those myths out there that a lot of families think, well, if we do early decision, the school doesn't have to give us any money, so we're kind of locked in. Typically not the way it works. Now, let me explain to you guys, obviously, the people, the families on here who are new to the admissions process, how applying to college works. Right at the bat, there's a bunch of different ways of applying. You have early action, you have restricted early action, you have early action 2, you have early decision 1, early decision 2, regular, and rolling. So all these things together, the easiest way for me to explain the way they work is this. Early decision 1 and early decision 2 are binding, which means you have to go to the college if you're accepted. The restricted early action is not binding. The early action itself, the regular early action, also not binding, and neither is regular or rolling. So only the early decisions are the stuff where you get in, you got to go. Now, the interesting thing is, if you do early decision 1 or early decision 2, either one of the two, either one of the ones that you get locked in, most of these colleges typically meet the maximum amount of financial assistance. So most schools that basically say we got you locked in as far as acceptance do not use it against you for financial aid consideration, by the way. Most of them don't look at it that way. They look at it from the perspective of this student's willing to lock themselves in here, not apply or compete with any other college for us. And basically the way we're going to reward them is by giving them as much assistance as possible. Now, I'm going to talk about a little bit further down the line here in the presentation, additional ways to kind of figure out if your college is generous or not if you are considering doing early decision. But before that, let's talk about the first place you guys are ever asked any financial aid questions, by the way, because everyone thinks the financial aid forms and everything else start in October of senior year. That's not when it technically starts. It actually starts a little bit before that, right here on the common application, as well as almost every application will ask you these questions now, by the way. Almost every application now, I took a screenshot of the common app here, so I'll show you guys. Down below, I actually highlighted it in blue. You can see it down there in light blue. It says, do you intend to apply for need-based financial aid? Now, this is actually a financial aid question being asked on an admissions form. And a lot of parents ask me, well, Ed, are they asking this? Is it going to be used against us if we say, yes, we need financial aid? Or is it going to help our cause get in if we say, no, we don't need financial aid? The reality is every school now asks this question. So you really don't know who it's helping and who it's not helping, by the way. You can, though, kind of figure it out. What you can do is you can call up the school's admissions office or financial aid office and ask the school, are you need aware? So are you looking at this question here for the admissions process? If they say, no, we're not need aware, we're need blind, we don't care if you can afford it, they don't care if you say, yes, we're going to apply for financial aid, or no, it's not going to help you or hurt you in any way. If the school says, yes, we are looking at your financial ability to pay for college as part of the admissions process, it does help little bit if you say no. And I mean like 1% helps. It barely helps at all, to be honest with you, in many cases. Plus, if you need financial assistance and you know the colleges are not obviously cheap anymore, and I'll be talking about cost in about 2 or 3 more slides, then you definitely want to say yes here, because you never know why the college did or did not accept you, by the way, to be honest with you. So if you didn't get accepted and you're wondering maybe it was because we indicated we need financial aid, it's perfectly fine. Because of the fact that if you need financial aid, I'd rather go to a college that's affordable, that makes sense for our family, to be honest with you. That being said, let's talk about the college visit. Now, a lot of you guys out there, the sophomores and juniors, even the freshman viewers here on the call, are probably wondering, now the colleges are going back to some kind of normalcy as far as not everything's through Zoom. You can actually go on the campus, take a tour, and so on and so forth. What things should we be doing while we're on the tour? And by the way, I have a video on this topic as well. I have a lot of topics, a lot of videos on the YouTube channel, but I'm going to go a little bit in depth here. But the YouTube video on the college visit and what you should be doing goes more in depth, by the way. That being said, when you're doing any college tour, 2 things you want to figure out before you even go on the college tour. Number 1, can we sit down with a financial aid officer? Number 1. Number 2, can I sit down with an admissions officer? These 2 things are very important because of the fact that they say, yes, you can sit down with both admissions and financial aid. You guys are golden because you're going to have a lot of good information leaving that tour, to be honest with you. Now, if you're able to sit down with the admissions officer, you want to make sure to bring a few things with you. Number 1, bring your high school transcript. Even if it's the unofficial transcript, which it has to be because you can't have an official transcript, get the unofficial transcript from the high school guidance office, the college advising office at your high school. Number 2, have your student create a resume of their volunteer work, community service, their leadership, their work experience, any achievements, any honors. Put it all on there. By the way, it doesn't have to be a perfect resume. You just want to kind of have bulletin points on there. Number 3 thing you want to make sure to bring with you for the admissions sit down, let's call it. The 3rd thing you want to bring with you is any test scores, any SATs, any ACTs, even your PSAT score, to be honest with you, or if you take a diagnostic test for a testing center, bring that with you guys as well. Now, these 3 things right here are very important because you can sit down with the admissions office and say, here are my academic information and test scores and my resume, community service, and so on and so forth. Do you see anywhere here that I am eligible as a student for scholarship funding at your college? You can figure out before your student even says they fell in love with the college, are you scholarship eligible? Directly from the admissions office. This is one of the things that many families don't do, and something I talk about in the videos on the YouTube channel about the college tour. Second, sit down with the financial aid office. If you're able to sit down with the financial aid office, first thing you want to do is fill out the school's net price calculator. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. I have a slide on that in about 3 slides. I'll explain what the net price calculator is in a moment. But at the end of every school's net price calculator, it has a PDF. You can print it out and bring it with you. Second thing you want to bring with you is a copy of your latest tax return. With these 2 things, you can sit them down in front of the financial aid officer and say, we believe that this is how much financial aid we're going to get. Am I correct? So you can get the scholarship information from the admissions office and figure out kind of where you are admissions-wise of getting in, as well as figure out your financial situation at that college all throughout the same tour. So it's a big benefit to do these tours as long as you're able to sit down with the reps, because it gives you direct knowledge of what that college is like to get in, as well as to get money from them. So obviously things that you should be doing. Obviously seeing the dorm rooms and everything else are important, but obviously the cost of colleges nowadays and the difficulty of getting them into college, these are the things you're really there to kind of figure out. Now let's talk college costs. Now, obviously, college costs are just, they're exploding, unfortunately. This year, believe it or not, for the freshman class of 22-23, this will be the first year that colleges actually exceed $90,000, believe it or not. Obviously, there are a lot of programs out there for financial assistance. I'm going to talk about some of them today, as well as in the senior presentation for you guys here for these freshmen, sophomore, juniors. I will be talking more in depth about that. But that being said, let's go right into, let's talk costs. Now, nationwide, public universities cost anywhere between $12,000 to right around $25,000. Private colleges nowadays across the United States are between $30,000 to around $44,000, $45,000. And the high elite private colleges, unfortunately, are in the $50,000 starting range and now topping off at $85,000 and above. Just to give you an example, nowadays $70,000 price tags for private universities, in some cases out-of-state public universities, is the norm. In fact, here, Columbia University is over $80,000. Fordham, NYU, basically $80,000. George Washington, Notre Dame, also, once again, $80,000. Now, as a freshman or sophomore or junior parent on the call, you might be wondering, these costs are crazy. I can't afford these things. Maybe I don't even make $80,000 a year. The worst thing you can do, though, is look at the sticker price of the college and say, we can't apply because we can't afford it. The reality is these colleges here are extremely generous. Some of them here even offer, in most cases, the students pay less than half the sticker price. So right at the top, the first thing you guys cannot do, I'm telling this to every family out there, this is the #1 mistake, by the way, of admissions by every family, by the way, every year. You guys look at the price tag, think you can't afford it, you don't apply, you have no idea how generous the college is. What you need to do first is the homework. So what's the homework? Price calculators. Nowadays, every single college out there, all of them, have net price calculators. So what are net price calculators? Very simple. Net price calculators, and by the way, I have Collegeboard's, I guess, screenshot of their video, because most of the net price calculators are either on Collegeboard or on the school's website. Now, the benefit of net price calculators are you basically answer about 15, 20 questions on Collegeboard or the school's net price calculator. And by the way, to find net price calculator, very simple. Just Google whatever the name of the school is and the term net price calculator, and it pops up. You answer 15, 20 questions, very direct financial questions. What do you make? What do you have in checking? What do you have in savings? So on and so forth. And they basically, at the end of that form, tell you how much grant money, basically free college money they can give you, as well in some cases, how much scholarship money they can give you. So the net price calculators are key for any student specifically considering restricted early action or early decision 1 or early decision 2, the 2 you get locked in on, obviously because you'll know if the college is generous or not based on your financial situation. So just to give you guys an example, I did a net price calculator. I just Googled Harvard net price calculator. They only asked like 17 questions, very simple. And like 5 or 6 of them were like name, birthday, so on and so forth. So it's very simple. I plugged into Harvard that we are a family of 4, their net price calculator, with 1 student going off to college and us having $50,000 in assets outside of retirement, checking, cash, investments, that kind of stuff. Harvard cost $78,928, as you can see here. That also showed up on the net price calculator. Shows you the breakdown of how much they cost. So obviously another $80,000 college. Harvard came back, though, and said that you will be paying less than $12,000 if you attended Harvard. We will be providing you over $66,000 in grant money. I know it says scholarship money, but there's no such thing as scholarship money from a merit GPA academic perspective in the Ivy League, but it's all free money at the end of the day, just a terminology difference. So you're probably all out there wondering, well, Ed, that's great, but how many of us are really going to get our student into Harvard? The reality is, the reason I use Harvard is because everyone knows Harvard. It just makes it very simple. Second reason I use Harvard is because of the fact that Harvard is not the only college this generous. There are many colleges out there that meet or come close to meeting 100% of your financial need. Schools like Ithaca, schools like Columbia, Johns Hopkins, Carnegie, schools like Providence, schools like Franklin and Marshall, Muhlenberg, Rider, Fairleigh Dickinson, Drew University. I can go on and on and on talking about how many colleges out there are super generous. So it doesn't have to be the most elite, difficult school to get into. You yourselves can find schools in your niche, in your tier of schools you want to apply to that are very generous by helping out using the College Board, using niche, using CapEx, as well as using the help of your college advising office at your high school. You guys can put together this list, which brings us into another big change from the financial aid form perspective. Now, when you guys enter senior year, October 1st is when you guys start doing all the financial aid forms, by the way. And after October 1st of senior year, you guys will be filling out the FAFSA form for every college, because every college requires the FAFSA form, by the way, after October 1st of senior year. The second form, some of you will be filling out, it's called a CSS Profile form. Now, in addition to those 2 forms, you have a third form for some of you guys out there, which is for the state that you reside in. If your student is going to stay in that state, so if they live in New Jersey and they're going to go to school and college in New Jersey, you got to fill out the state form for New Jersey. Or if they're going to stay in New York, you got to fill out the state form for New York. So those are 3 forms financially you guys have to fill out after October 1st. Now, right off the bat is the FAFSA form is changing a big discount they had. Previously, this academic year, 21-22, and going back, what happened is if you had multiple students in college, the FAFSA would give you guys a discount. As you can see here, if you have 1 student going off to college, let's just say the college costs $35,000 for everything included, just to make the math easy. All the numbers are going to be even here, by the way. So $35,000. You fill out all the financial aid forms, the FAFSA and everything else, and it says your student can pay, or you guys as a family can pay, a family unit, $20,000 towards the cost of college. So your student has $15,000 of financial aid space here. What's happening now is that the FAFSA form is eliminating that discount. So what happens is if you have 2 students going to college, what usually happened was you would go from having to pay $20,000 being divided between the two of them, so it'd be 10,000 apiece. And that 10,000 apiece would basically mean that each one of the students had more financial aid space available when they go to college. So instead of a college looking at a student being able to pay 20, they're only going to be able to pay 10, so there's more space available for financial aid consideration. FAFSA is getting rid of that. So starting next year, if you have 2 students in school and one student says you can pay 20, guess what? For the second, you can also pay 20. So now you're looking at paying, let's call it $40,000 essentially towards the cost of college between these 2 universities. Now let's look at the CSS Profile. The CSS Profile is not following this format. So thankfully what the CSS Profile is doing is if you have one student going off to college and they're looking at you paying $20,000, if you have 2 of them going off to college, you're still only paying $20,000. So if your school requires a CSS Profile, very likely the schools that you're looking at are going to be extremely generous, so I would not be worried about having multiple students in school. If your students are only looking at FAFSA-only colleges, in some cases, unfortunately, this will have a big impact on you guys financially, unfortunately. Now, all that put together because of the fact that starting next academic year, the 22-23 year, when the new FAFSA comes into place, because the FAFSA form, the main form for all financial aid purposes, is changing dramatically. One of the big changes they're making on the financial aid form, the FAFSA form, starting next academic year, so for juniors this year, rising seniors basically, for your first time filling out your FAFSA form after October 1st. One of the big changes is starting next year, they're no longer allowing you, if you're divorced or separated, to count whichever parent's income you want. What typically happens, by the way, as of right now and in the past, was if you were divorced or separated and you were filling out the FAFSA form, they will ask you which parent does a student live with 50% of the time, 51% of the time, or more. And you would put that one parent in there, and what would happen is the other parent, if you're divorced or separated, their financial questions were erased. So they only ask for one parent's financial information. Starting next year, though, if you're divorced or separated, by the way, you're still only counting one parent. However, this is where the asterisk coming in. They're changing the question to which parent has claimed the student according to the IRS tax return. So for 2021 taxes for juniors, for 2022 taxes for sophomores, for 23 taxes for freshmen, going forward, they're going to want to see who claims a student on the tax return, and that's the parent they're utilizing for financial aid consideration. Unfortunately, before, if you had one parent making a lot less, typically you'd go with that parent as a custodial parent where they live with most of the time to get more aid, but they're getting rid of that starting next academic year, October 1st of 2022. Let's talk about social media landmines, something I talked about in the beginning. If your student has a Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or anything they have nowadays they're doing online, and they're posting stuff that some people might find offensive or not as funny as they find it, or something you might think deem as immature, let's call it. You got to make that website, you got to make that social media page private. You just have to, because colleges are going on these social media pages now, especially from an admissions point of view, to look to see what kind of students they're bringing in. So the last thing you want to figure out is you guys were basically denied acceptance to this college because your student put something on there that didn't make any sense or was immature or seen as being demeaning to anyone nowadays, to be honest with you. So social media nowadays is a big thing to watch out for. If your student doesn't want to make it private and there's stuff out there that you don't think is a good idea for them to share with the world, especially admissions, let's call it, you got to stop paying the phone bill. I know it sounds crazy, but it's really that important nowadays, especially as competitive the colleges are nowadays. You got to make sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot basically here. All that being said, if you need more help, if you need more assistance, we do have a newsletter that goes out every single month. If you want the newsletter, very simple. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you my email. Just email me and let me know what grade level you're in, because the newsletters are grade specific, by the way. Okay. That being said, let's talk about additional information for you guys out there to get you guys ready for the college process, to inform yourselves about what's out there. Now, right off the bat, studentloans.gov is the new website where you guys go to fill out the FAFSA form. I'll be talking about this later on, again, for you guys, because I do your high school, both in the fall for the seniors and juniors, as well as the spring for the sophomores and juniors, to educate you guys in the process. But studentloans.gov is a great website to utilize to gather more information about the whole college process, how the FAFSA form works, what information they're looking for, what they're not looking for, and so on and so forth. Collegeboard as well is a great wealth of information, as I mentioned before, and I showed you guys before on the screen here. As well as for scholarship searches, my top 3 that I like the most for scholarship searches are FastWeb, FinAid, and CapX. These are the 3 I like the most out there. Obviously, also for CapX, it's a great resource to utilize for college information. As well as we do have a Facebook page. So if you go on Facebook and you type in Principia Prep, you can watch and basically follow us there. We do post a lot of stuff on there about everything, about admissions, about testing, about financial aid forms, about open houses. We post a lot of stuff on the Facebook page. So if you want to follow us, basically go to Facebook, just type in Principia Prep. You'll be able to see all the stuff we're posting out there to help families out there. As well as we have the YouTube channel if you want to go on there. Obviously, the more videos you guys watch, the more help it provides us in giving you guys back in scholarship funds, as well as it also allows us to keep growing the channel, which keeps me making videos for you guys out there. Usually I post anywhere from 2 to 3 videos every week on relevant topics, by the way. And all of that being said, as you're going through this whole process, you as a parent obviously know your student better than them sometimes. So if you think they're going down the wrong path as far as the school choice, or the school they're considering is maybe too far away, or it's just too expensive for us, it doesn't make sense financially speaking, or you don't think they're going to like the school for whatever reason, you got to speak up. You can't look at your student anymore as a child. I even have a video on this topic alone. You have to look at them as an adult. And if you think they're making an error in judgment for whatever reason, very simple. Don't turn it into a debate. Just say to them, look, let's grab a coffee, you and me, let's just talk. What is it about this school that you like? What is it about that school you like? Why don't you like this college? Talk to me as an adult to adult, not parent to student or parent to kid kind of thing, adult to adult. And I'm going to tell you my perspective. I'm not telling you got to take my advice. I'm just telling you as your parent, this is what I think. This is not an argument. It's not a debate. It's just a friendly discussion on the topic. Because obviously nowadays with colleges costing, reality, $90,000 in some cases, you got to have these discussions. That being said, here is our contact information. If you do have questions, if you do have concerns, on the screen is my cell phone number, believe it or not. The easiest way to reach me, by the way, is text message. Second easiest way to reach me is by send me an email. And the third way is by phone call. I rarely answer the phone because usually I'm inundated by either other parents I'm helping out with some college process or working on the YouTube stuff or helping at the high school or consulting at college. So I'm all over the place. But the easiest way to reach me is text message because I typically answer text messages back within 24 hours. So it's the easiest way if you guys have any questions or any concerns, just send me a text message. It's the fastest way to get a hold of me.